Tumkaribishe sasa speaker atuelimishe kuhusu our finances. Andrew Kibe, financial expert. We want to hear, how does our mindset influence our financial habits, and why is this timely to us today? Welcome, Mr. Kibe. It's your time now.
Thank you so much, Alex, and thank you, Sacco, for this opportunity to share some insights about this very, very important topic. I know most of you have come across this, but today what's going to be unique in the next 10 to 15 minutes is that I'm going to break it down in a way that you've probably never heard before, and you'll be able to appreciate the fact that, financial freedom has very little to do with the physical money as most people think. Financial freedom has a lot to do with the mindset. And that's why this topic is very, very key. So as you heard, my name is Andrew Kibe. I'm not the one most of you assuming that I was in that aspect. So I want to start by basically giving you a framework of how we're going to approach this. So there's a very strong quote from the verse of Hosea chapter 4, verse 6 that says, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." So I want you to take two keywords. My people are destroyed or they perish because of what? Because of lack of knowledge. So pick knowledge and understand that knowledge can be broken down into two parts. We have what we refer to as the right knowledge, and we have that which we refer to as the incorrect knowledge. So all of us here have knowledge about money, but how come most of us are struggling financially? That's an indication that that strong quote from the Bible is saying that we are going through those financial difficulties because we lack the right knowledge. So at the end of this presentation, what I aim to do is to actually share with you some of very deep insights that have been hidden from you. And if you run away with what I'm going to share with you today, I am guaranteeing you from experience and what I've taught this thing for the past 4 years, that you can expect to see things starting changing in your life. So the first thing that we want to tackle is we want to understand who we are, okay? And simply put, without getting into the details, we are not these labels we put ourselves. You are not your name. You are not your profession. You're not all these things this world makes us believe we are. Those are just labels that we use as we move or progress on in this physical world. But the true essence of who you are is you are a creator. And that comes again from the Bible when it says, you were created in the image and likeness of God. So when you read that verse, your mind will play tricks on you to think of an image. But you and I know very well that God can take any image that he chooses to. He appeared to Moses as a burning bush. He appeared to Samson as a sound. So we cannot allude that what that scripture means is something physical. So if God is this finger, a reflection of this finger will be exactly this. So we are that reflection. So it means whatever this finger is, this is exactly what this one is. So we ask ourselves, who is God? And God, the way we know it in a nutshell, is that God is the creator. So if God is the creator and he created us in his image, then that makes us creator. So understand from now going forward that who you really are is a creator. Then we move to the next step. What tool do we use to create? What did God bless us with as humans to be able to perform this act of creation? And that tool is called the mind. This is what animals don't have that we have. And through this mind, we have always been creating our reality at an individual level, as well as a society, through ways of how we create. So once you understand the second part, that you have a very powerful tool called the mind that you are using to create your daily life experiences, then it's very important for you to understand how the creation process is. And it's basically a reflection of who created us. So to understand how we create, we look at how we learned about how God created. So the first step that God did was a thought. He thought about, let me create the world. That says the first step of creation is a thought. So understand, anytime you're starting to think about something, you are igniting the engine of creation. The second thing that God did, he spoke the word. That means we are also following that reflection. So our second step is also speaking that word from the thought. Now, when it comes to God, he thought and spoke the word, and the word became flesh. But for us, when we speak something, it doesn't happen automatically. However, if you keep thinking about a thought and speaking about it, eventually that is going to materialize in your life. So if you look back in your life, you'll realize much of what you've been thinking about and speaking about is actually happening around you. And that is the process of creation. So you as an individual, you can do that. So you can imagine you and two people thinking the same thing alike and speaking the same language, the power. And this is why Saccos are becoming very powerful without them realizing the psychology aspect of it. They have this common bond that is bringing them together with this very specific goal towards what they want to achieve. So once we understand that this tool called the mind is what God gave us to create, then we should pay more attention at how it works. You want to understand more about what it is. Now, to most people, they assume that the mind is just one big ball, and that's where our problems start. So the mind is split up into two parts. There's what we call the conscious mind and what we call the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is your part of mind that does not think. It just reacts, okay? So if I come to you and I slap you and you slap me back, that was a reaction, okay? And there's no single day your body will ever do anything without instructions coming from the mind. So we want to tap everything our body does. Which part of the mind is it coming from? So anytime you're reacting, understand that is coming from the subconscious mind. The conscious part of your mind is the one that takes time to think, to reason, to analyze, and it figures out things before it instructs the body to do something, right? So having understood those two, then we ask ourselves, let's think about how this functions. When a child is born, is the mind blank or does it have any information in it? And the answer is, when a child is born, that mind is blank. There's nothing in it. So think of your mind as a magnet. A magnet, if you place ions around it, it's going to attract it to where it is. So the same way, the way your mind is designed by God is that the thoughts that you allow to be stored there is going to attract those thoughts to become your reality. So when a child is born, you can think of that mind as a laptop or a computer that does not have anything installed in them. So as the child grows, you start programming them, you start feeding these programs into this computer. Now, there's some very interesting discoveries that has come about very recently in the recent years, and that is, in the first 7 years of a life of a child, they operate 100% from a subconscious point of view. That means their conscious is not awakened. And proof of that is, if you take a 4-year-old kid who's standing across the road where you are and they know you, they will automatically run to where you are. That is because their conscious level has not awoken to interpret this to be a road, and therefore the need for me to look left and right before I cross. So the first 7 years, we say children operate 100% from the subconscious mind. The next question becomes, but then how does this conscious mind learn? It learns through repeated observation. And the way it works is this. Stay with me on this one. If you expose a child to something the first time, it leaves a trace in the subconscious mind. The second time you expose that child to something similar, it empowers another line, another one. So every repeated observation keeps forming another layer and another layer. And the more layers it affirms, it starts solidifying in the subconscious mind, and that starts becoming the natural reaction or the natural habit of that child. That's why our Swahili tell us, mtoto umleavyo ndivyo akuavyo. The Bible tells us, show me or show the child the way to go. Even as an adult, he will not depart from that. It's because of that 7 years, what you're actually exposing your children to. Right. After 7 years, then what happens? Interesting enough, the subconscious shrinks to 95% of the entire mind. And only 5% of your mind from 7 years takes up. And that goes on with you for the rest of your life. And if you want proof of this, I want you to imagine your day when you wake up in the morning. Your body is moving out, your legs is moving out of the bed, but you're not thinking. What part is making that body move? I told you every movement of the body is being sponsored from a part of your mind. So that's a reaction from the subconscious. You go take a shower, you're not thinking, but your body is moving while you're showering. That is the subconscious. You're brushing your teeth, the same thing. So if you extrapolate that for the whole day, you end up realizing that you are not aware of what your body is up to 95% of the day. It's always up to something. So which part is so much in control of your life? It is the subconscious mind. Unfortunately, you are not aware of that because you believe that your mind is the conscious part, yet that is just the 5%. So remember, what is stored in the subconscious mind is what actually develops to become your habit. That's why I find people who are addicted to certain things struggle to come out of addiction. It's because of that solidification over the years. So with that small understanding and introduction about the mind, so we want to bring the component of money into it. All right. Now look at what this statement is saying, that your subconscious is 30,000 times more powerful than your conscious. And we want to use this understanding to try and grasp something that will automatically show us how we behave around money. So I'm going to start by writing a couple of very important, let's say, topics for money. So you have save, spend, invest. You can have borrow. You can have business. I'll just have this one for now. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, let's take an example of us Black Kenyans. And we want to track what happens as we are raised in our society. So our parents, our forefathers were lied to that it is wrong to introduce children to money. And they bought that lie. The mind does not know whether it's a lie or it's the truth. It does not care what it is. It only knows to attract what you store there. So our fathers, through our forefathers, decided that children are not going to be taught about money subjects. And that's why it's not even covered in our schools. Now look at the danger of this school of thought. So you say it's wrong and you stop and you say, you know, your children are not going to learn about this subject. Yet you are the same person who takes your children to the shop. What do they observe you do? They observe you for the first time spend something. So without your realization, you have started to teach something to your child. You have started to introduce a certain layer in their subconscious mind called spending. So the second time you take them to the shop, there you go. Third time, fourth time, fifth time, introduce things like televisions, spend, 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 radio, spend, 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 billboards. We're just bombarded with this message of spending while we're saying it's wrong to introduce. So by default, our children's subconscious mind develop this when it comes to the topic of money. And therefore, if I come down here and I draw another graph, this represents time and this represents wealth. So I'm going to have this as 0, this is positive, and this is negative. So we want to study what happens in the first 7 years of a child, the 23, around 40, 60, So you as a parent, if you buy into this school of thought, this child of yours, because you said it's wrong for them to learn about money, this is what happens. The child does not have any money here, But because you've been exposing them to spending, that is what has formed up in the subconscious mind. The child is not aware of it, and you are not aware of that because you accepted that truth. And through that, what you're holding, you keep attracting that into your life. Then between 7 to 28 years, our children now start following celebrities. Celebrities now instill what to spend money on. So the first 7 years, we teach them or we program them in their subconscious that money is for spending. And then between 7 to 23, we program them precisely what to buy. If you want a car, don't get this, buy this. If you want a house, live in a certain place, not this. And that is fed over and over every year, even as they're going on with school. This is why when you started working, most of us, me included, the banks come knocking to you and tell you qualify for unsecured loan. You are totally clueless about money. But now you don't realize the programs that have been accumulated for all these years is just spending. So you've been driven to realize when you want money, you have money, the first thing you need to buy is a car. So you get your loan, you buy a car. What is a car? It's a liability. What happens to your draft? It goes down. So you have started on a very wrong foot. You start paying, the bank comes knocking and tells you, do you want a top-up? You say yes. Now you're thinking of the next thing that you're programmed to do. You dip yourself further. So around this time is when you're settling down, you want to have a family, right? So the two people come together and they realize they're in a lot of trouble. At that time, the baby is on the way. So the struggle of getting out of this debt starts. If you're working, you stop questioning because of fear of rubbing the wrong people at work and getting fired, because you can't imagine what will happen to your life should your employees send you home. So you walk back and you stop questioning. By doing that, you stop thinking. You become a robot. You're just there doing things you've been told. And we have done quite a research on this, and we have realized that most of these people break even around here. By this time you get here, you realize, I can see the exit there at retirement. Does it make sense for me to exit employment now, or should I stay and wait for what we call the handshake? So most people wait until this time, they get the handshake, and then they come out. So remember, this time, you have sort of, killed yourselves for thinking by just pulling yourself back. So you can't think of what to do with your money. You're listening to everyone who's coming out. You're looking around at what is everyone doing, all right? So the money where you place it, just like a child who needs to learn how to run. Any business does not just become successful. There's always ups and downs. Before you learn the ropes of doing business, of investments, all this money is gone. And that is why a lot of retirement people, even who are prime jobs, are basically relying heavily on pensions and upkeep from the children. Okay, quickly, let's look then at the Indians from Kenya. You go to these shops, you find them there. What are they doing? So these children are exposed to spending, of course, because this is something every family does, but they're also exposed to business. So the subconscious also builds something around this. And you cannot do a successful business without understanding the art of borrowing, good borrowing. So this becomes automatic. You can't run a successful business if you don't know how to save. So all these things in Indians are instilled in their minds of their children from when they're very young. So if you come here and you draw their graph, the first year, 7 years, they're broke. Here they're learning still. When the banks come and give them here money, then automatically you'll agree with me, this is why the graph goes up here. So if you listen to a lot of these Indians at home, they'll tell you, our parents came to Kenya with $100. My father was the first captain of this country. And today he's relying on the investments that my grandfather placed to him. The Indians who came then with $100 own almost 10 companies of productions, manufacturings. So if you look at this, you realize that it is not about the physical money. It is about the mindset of how we were programmed from when we were very young. Okay? So that's just a summary of that. So out of this now, we bring the element of the right knowledge. What is the right knowledge? The first thing I want to quickly share with you is something called a cash flow quadrant, which shows the 4 ways of how you can earn money. So the top part is called E for employee, Down here is S for self-employed or small business. B is for big business, and I is for investments. Now, if you recall how we were raised, from the moment we got to school, we'll be asked, what would you like to be when you grow up? If you said something like a pilot, the teacher got so excited, and we were programming children to end up in this first box called A. I'd like to be a doctor. I'd like to, all those things they're telling us, they were just confining our minds into this box. And without our understanding, by just thinking about that, is what we start attracting to our life. Who owns these businesses that they're pushing us to work for? Why do we have something called the Big Four? Where did the name Big Four come from? For those of you who understand accounting, it was just a program to program us so that we end up staying in this box. And without, better words to use it, it was all about control. So why would they not open this thing as for us to know? Now, the way you look at it is, these people who are found on the left-hand side are people who spend their years running after money. They're always chasing after money. Okay? If I place a cart down there where you are, and I ask you to run after it, what are the chances you're going to catch that cart? The chances are very slim. But if you do not know any other way of catching that cart, you will keep running after it. You get tired, you stop, you wake up, you run, because there's no other way of running after it. That's what happens to our minds. But when you open someone's mind, they'll say, this is ridiculous. Is there something else I can do? Maybe I can buy fish, put the fish down and call the cart. The cart will come to where you are. So we said the people who are found on the left-hand side spend their years chasing this cart. That's why you find them in the morning going for meetings. Everyone is meeting at the traffic jam. Everyone is angry. And then when you're going for the meetings, you find some people playing golf, and you start asking yourself, when do these people work? No, you are programmed to be on the wrong side where money, you're chasing it. They have learned the art of making money coming to where they are. They're attracting that cash to where you are. So if you have the wrong mindset, you can work your entire life and you'll never experience what we all yearn for, and that's financial freedom. So this understanding is very important, because you are a creator and you create through your mind, and your mind is through your thoughts. So if you're programmed wrongly and you do not know, you will be running after that cart. So that's the first thing that I needed you to understand. And if you look on the right-hand side, you will notice something. This top person here is actually using leverage. He's leveraging on the smart people called employees to work for them. So he's using very small effort, and then he's tapping into your degrees, into your mindset, into your innovations, and all these things just to make money for him or her or them. These people below here have some small amount of money, and they're asking themselves, where can we place this money for it to grow? So it's like holding a seed and you're saying, where can I plant it for it to grow? Therefore, this side, which we all now agree that the right side is where the financial freedom is, requires capital. So once you have the right mindset, the next thing now becomes, where do I get capital? And a lot of people are struggling to figure out where to get capital. So this is the interesting thing that you need to understand. The second one is understanding there's a big difference between assets and savings. I've always heard since I was a kid that the way to financial freedom is through savings. I came to realize that was just one big fat lie. It is not through savings. The right and optimal way of attaining financial freedom is focusing on what we call cash flowing assets. And I'm going to demonstrate that to you quickly here so that you understand what I'm talking about. So let's assume we have the CEO here, and then we have the chairman here, okay? So the CEO is raised to be a saver, and then the chairman is raised to focus on cash flowing asset. So cash flowing assets are assets that are constantly bringing money to you, like rental income, like the cars we just had the PS talk about. It's bringing every monthly. Now, most of you, especially those of you who live in diaspora, you have this habit of buying land here and letting it stay here. That's an asset, but it's a non-cash flowing asset. So you need to turn your mind to make it converted from the non-cash flowing to cash flowing, because that's the secret to financial freedom. So if you take both of these ones, let's say earn something like 100,000. If the CEO is programmed to save, in the first year is going to save, let's say 20,000 every month. This gives a total of 440,000. Okay. So if he's given dividends by Solution Sacco, atarudishia mwili pole. You know, he's been saving for 12 months. It's a struggle vis-a-vis what the mind was taught. If you go to the second year, he'll save the same thing. So if you continue with this, you can see what's happening to this graph. So we say the graph of someone who's programmed to be a saver is parallel line. And then at the moment of retirement, you start now consuming that money. However, if you program, now let's look at what the chairman is. So the first time the chairman was told, make sure you focus on cash flowing assets. So he says, I'm going to buy a car and convert it to be an Uber, which will be bringing me money every month. So he says, I need about 400,000 to buy a car by the end of the first year. So even before he starts saving, he has a very specific goal. So he says, if I save 20,000, I'm not going to be able to buy the car. So that forces him to increase his savings to something like 30 or 40,000. So at the end of the year of the first year, he'll have no money, but at least he'll have the first asset. In the second year, if this first asset brings, let's say 2,000 every day, this will turn out to be 720,000 at the end of the year. Income from this first cash flowing asset. And this one has actually surpassed these two. But in the second year, he's still saving for a second asset. So in the third year, he's going to be collecting another 720 from the first one, plus 720 from the second, and then plus, now he'll be saving for the third one. So the graph of the chairman is going to be, this is how it's going to be. And you can see from these two, automatically, that this chairman is going to have different streams of income that are just bringing money to him. So clearly, he's going to attain his financial freedom very fast. So if you're not aware of this, just because you came to this world and you found everyone preaching saving, 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 that's why I talked about having the right knowledge and the wrong knowledge. And I'm not saying that it's wrong to save, but save towards something very specific. Don't just save for the sake of saving. Okay? So with those two understanding, then you realize for you to attain financial freedom, then what you require is actually capital. So where do you get capital? So this is the secret. Have you ever heard of any billionaire in this world preach savings? There's nowhere. They are always talking about investments. And what are investments? They are cash flowing assets. So that's the first thing they talk about. So if we are aspiring to reach their level, why are we doing the opposite of what they're telling us? And so as you read deeper, you realize that most of these billionaires, what they do is they don't use their money. What they do is they use other people's money to make money. Okay? Someone like, you'd be surprised, someone like Equity Bank CEO, most of these who understand how money works, they have very little amount in their savings account. Money is outside there working for them because they understand the difference being on the left and the right side of that cash flow quadrant. So how do you access this capital? Once you have this knowledge, the next thing is accessing capital. Now, what is so interesting for me is when I discovered how powerful Saccos are. And the moment I did that, I moved all my money to Saccos. Why? Because it's so easy to access capital there. And the CEO mentioned when he started that they actually offer different credit facilities. So once you understand how this money works, then it's just a matter of tapping into the right Sacco. And then they normally give almost 3 times their model in terms of what your savings are. So if you compare a bank to a Sacco, there are so many benefits you're going to see. If you go right now to the website of Central Bank, you'll realize banks are giving, that data you can pick it up from the statistics, the banks right now are giving an average of 2.49% annually. That's the average rate they're giving for savings with banks. You've just had Saccos today. You've had solution gives 18 and 13%. Yet, so many people are removing money, or they're keeping the very minimum money in the Sacco, and they're moving the rest of the money to the banks. Why? Because they were conditioned from when they were very young that the bank is the best place to put. And they created this idea that Sacco is for people who are suffering. So out of that and lack of this knowledge, we pick money from where we can earn a lot of interest and make more wealth, and we go give someone, we go give the banks. And you see the advantage of being in the Sacco is that you become a shareholder. It's only that we use the term member, but it's yours. So this knowledge is what is very, very important, okay? I've really gone beyond my time, so I'll ask you to allow me to end at that particular point, Mr. Alex. I am ready to receive any questions from any part. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrew Kibe, for that comprehensive presentation on how our mindset influences our financial habits. I've personally been educated quite a lot that I may be broke, you may want some 10 bob from me, I don't have it, but I have money out there working for me. It doesn't mean that if you have cash on you, then you are doing well. Where is your money? And I like the way you've linked this to Saccos, and how is the best place to place your money and get capital and invest. And of course, Solution Sacco is one of those top Saccos in the country.